I mean, have your pick: Remus Lupin, Amos Diggory.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Diggory wasn't
really.
Yeah, no one ever said anything.
No, it was a fish and Curse of Charles.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyone have any thoughts on sort of why the fathers are so shitty in this series? Because it's sort of in contrast to the fact that the mothers are, you know, pure and saintly and perfect.
And we will have a Mother's Day discussion.
We call mothers.
There are a lot of shitty ones, but there are some good ones. I mean,
what shitty mothers come to mind?
No.
oh, I agree with what you said about mothers.
Yeah.
It's just not true. I agree with what you're saying about fathers and like there's some sort of theme that they're all females. They're terrible, lots of terrible ones, but she's good ones too. And they're the ones who are supposed to be sort of like her ideal of mother, like, right?
Sorry, I'm also really bad at names. I apologize.
That's okay, my name's Isabel. Petunia is a bad mother, in my opinion.
Okay.
But she's not as bad as Vernon.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, Petunia is kind of...
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
But I will say, speaking of what you said, your name again?
Isabel.
What Isabel said about Petunia, I would say Petunia is debatable because I feel like maybe if she understood and actually was more accepting of
41, I'll have the same thing as Valerie.
Anyone?
What is it?
I feel like for Petunia, I feel like if everyone saw either read the book or saw the scene in part 2 when Lily shows her magic, like she made a flower cut out of her hand, and she immediately saw her as a freak. If she had an open mind about magic and even like be able to see a little bit of Hogwarts, maybe she had more acceptance to it. But as you saw in the first movie, she considered her a freak. So I feel like with an open mind, she could have been a better mother to Harry and more accepting, but she just chose to be, closed-minded, scared, and think that magic is bad.
Okay. So, again, now talking about Petunia, and also movies prove nothing. So just tease.
Okay.
We're talking books here.
Really?
And fathers.
We are sticking mostly with the books. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So, any other thoughts, sort of broadly, on?
I mean, also with father figures, I mean, it's culturally too. It tends to be, it's just a bad stereotype. Fathers tend to be less involved in their kids' life.
That's mine.
Culturally, like they're like, oh, fathers don't play necessarily like such an important helicopter role in a kid's life, right? They're just kind of there to support the family. So maybe, and then Harry Potter especially, it's just like, no, the mother's there that does everything kind of a thing. Like, so I think just culturally, it probably seems like the fathers aren't as good as the mothers because they do less. They just like do.
There seems to be a theme of like fathers aren't what they seem. Like for example, there's 2 examples I think of. James, you realize he's kind of a bully. He's not perfect. The other example was even Barty Crouch Senior. Like we think he's horrible, and then we find out through Barty Crouch Junior all what he went through to save his son and get him out of there. Still a horrible person, but he did go through a lot to try to get his son and everything. So not a blank clear cut. Another one is Tom Riddle Sr. and everything. You think he abandoned his wife and everything, but you realize what really happened to him. And it's not like he just left because she was a witch. He left because he was under a love potion and everything. Like I feel like there's a theme of like they're not what they seem. There's more to the fathers.
Yeah. I mean, definitely one of the big themes in the latter half of the series is sort of knocking father figures off their pedestals. And you see it most clearly with Harry's father figures, because starting in Order of the Phoenix, Sirius, James, and then the biggest one in Deathly Hallows, Dumbledore. But you can also extend that, I got you, to other father figures. Lucius, whom Draco idolizes completely in the first 5-6 books, is completely knocked off his pedestal in Deathly Hallows. I mean, he's literally unmanned in front of his son when his wand is taken away.
Wait, Draco was in that scene?
Yeah.
Okay, forgot about that.
Yeah.
Bad. It's really bad.
Oh, it's bad. Because
the beginning of the
the
film,
amazing
they're
thing
at
is,
Malfoy Manor.
in the Malfoy Manor scene, when Lucius is like, look at him, isn't it Harry? Draco's like, I don't know. And then Narcissa is like, Draco, go look, tell if it's Harry. He goes, he looks, and then he goes back to stand by his mom. If you look at the cues of what Draco's doing in that scene, it just sort of tells a whole story about the Malfoy family. Yeah, I got to think right about Dumbledore for now, because my book from Malfoy.
first.
Mary? And then, no, I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
I wanted to know if anybody knows about J.K. Rowling and her own father.
Yeah.
She's very, she doesn't get along with her own father, then what she's doing is she's actually writing what she's used to. So if she and her father were distant, she's not going to make the male characters stronger. If her mother figure was a thing.
I think she's estranged from her father.
Yes.
Then that would explain why.
I was going to bring that up, so thank you. Basically, in 2002, 2003, Jo Rowling had an estrangement with her father. Basically, her father invested a bunch of money in a business that went belly up. So he was hurting for money so badly, he sold off the personalized signed Harry Potter book that Jo gave him.
Thank you.
And when Jo found out, she did not then speak to him for 10 years. Apparently, as of 2012-ish, they were reconciled, but you can also trace the sea change in the Harry Potter series to that. Because in the first 3.5 books, like, fathers are fine, and then Order of the Phoenix, Half-Blood Prince, Not the Heralds, that's when father figures turn really, really shitty, and that coincided with her estrangement with her father, whereas her mother died just as she began writing the series, hence mother's love is the be-all, end-all.
Sorry,
Yeah, Liza.
Liza.
Yeah, so I think at least part of this too, the way that we look at fathers versus mothers, comes from the fact that Harry is a boy and not a girl. So like there's something to be said for like the boy looking at his mother as this like, you know, like ideal pedestal. Partially he also didn't know her, right? But he is also a boy developing, and so like his role models being men and his father figures, his male figures in his life being father figures, like that all feels sort of natural that he would focus and we would find more complexity there because that's sort of where his attention might be fixated. So I think we may just know more about them because he's looking at how to develop himself, right? In the image of the men that he knows. And so, like, you know, his attention, he's a little myopic, Harry, right? Like, we are only where he is, kind of.
Yeah.
So,
which also factors into the fact that, you know, oh, you look like your father, oh, you're just like your father, oh, you look like your father.
Yeah.
Like, father.
Urban, Ellis, and then Aaron.
Nope.
Sorry, you had your hand up earlier. Did you want to
did.
say anything? Did she raise her hand?
Okay, go ahead. I trust you.
No, I wanted to echo some of the points that have been made already. I think that in the first 3 books in particular, so much of the male character's identity is tied to their fathers, but then over the course of book 1, 2, 3, 4, so on, there's individuation and more becoming a person, still identifying with your father in certain ways, but becoming a fully realized adult and also recognizing the father figure as a realized whole person with flaws and also benefits.
And quiz to Ravenclaw.
Hufflepuff.
Look at you messing up.
20 points to Hufflepuff. That's amazing because it's actually Goblet of Fire where the change happens.
Yeah.
Because sort of one of the recurring themes of Goblet of Fire is fathers sort of losing control of the situation and proving to their sons that they are fallible. It sort of begins right off the bat with Vernon Dursley being unable to help Dudley lose weight, essentially. That, you know, Dudley has tantrums and all this, and Vernon's like, but he's a growing boy, it's fine. But he gotta go on a diet. And then Arthur Weasley can't control the twins, they still make Weasley Wizard Wheezes. Barty Crouch Sr. completely loses control of Barty Crouch Jr. Draco is like, wait till my father hears about this, and Moody's like, no, your father can't help you now. And it eventually leads to Tom Riddle's father unwillingly and unknowingly helping resurrect the son he never knew about, and finally concludes with Amos Diggory losing his son. So, yeah, that is a very powerful thread that she wove into Goblet of Fire, which in so many ways is the turning point in the series. Okay.
Okay, so
Alice.
and then Tim,
And then
Perfect.
Theodore, I really liked your point about individuation because I think that sort of like plays into like as the series progresses, like the characters all turn into adults, and I think in some ways like the mothers don't really work, like a lot of them in the series, so they just kind of are held up as this ideal of love and domestic bliss, and in some ways the fathers are serve as like role models for the characters who are growing and sort of finding their career-oriented or purpose-oriented way of being. And I think that in some ways it's like showing that part of growing up is like realizing that your heroes are flawed and that they have imperfections and they've either overcome difficulties in the overcome difficulties in the past or sort of have things that they're still working on, and that's part of being human.
I'm just going to reiterate a couple of points that are already made, I guess. But I feel like the role of the father figure in Harry Potter is like tied with Harry's quest to grow up, I guess. I feel like in every book he is looking for another father figure, and maybe this is more like focused in like the later books. But it seems like his primary father figures in every book like fail him in one way or another. Whether it's like Hagrid, who is kind of like a child man. That is like Sirius, who's obviously looking for something in Harry that he wants that Harry can't fulfill. And then moving on, you have Lupin, again, probably doing the exact same thing that Sirius is doing. There's Mad-Eye Moody in the fourth one, who is like a father figure, but again, he ends up betraying him, and not Moody, of course, it's Barty Jr., and then the ultimate one, the ultimate failure, is Dumbledore, who just used him as a sort of Deus Ex Machina sort of device to defeat Voldemort. And so it's just it is just like a whole series of like these father figures that are just kind of disproved or fail Harry in one way or another. And ultimately that is his growing up quest to just find the strength in himself. What I want to say, though, about the mother thing, why we don't focus on the mothers, is because I feel like there's a precedent in the first book that's set when it says, like, your mother's love, that's what protected you and everything. So I feel like Harry probably feels like he has his mother with him at all times in one way or another, so maybe he's not looking for that maternal figure. He gets Molly Weasley's love, that's great. And but the father figure is always missing and is always a failure.
Okay, we'll get to you in a minute. So, first of all, in regards to your last point, I think it's more the fact that Molly Weasley immediately adopts anyone who comes within a 10-foot radius.
Just her mothering.
That is a really weird mutant power.
It just like the moderate. If you get too close, you're like, hi, you're my child now. You need to eat. Whereas
I can't afford to feed you.
But you need to eat. Whereas Arthur Weasley was sort of like, oh, okay, there's more kids, sure, fine, whatever. So I feel like the mother figure, he sort of got early on, whereas the father figure was sort of an ongoing thing. I also completely disagree that Harry's quest here was finding himself and learning to stand on his own. Harry's arc in the series is finding a family. That's sort of all he ever wants, and he sort of keeps trying to get it and sort of keeps being ripped away from him. And sort of the way it ends in Deathly Hallows is he finally has that family. That's why the epilogue is what it is.
So I really like Liza.
Yeah.
I really like your point about how the focus was from Harry, so it's like a boy's relationship with his mother. So it made me think would it be different if if J.K. Rowling had included girls' perspectives with their moms? Because I know sometimes that's a point of contention where girls have really bad relationships with their moms, they don't get along, or they think their mom is stifling them. So I realized in this series they don't really focus on mom relationships. Any of the girl characters, they don't look at their moms, what their relationship is like. Did Cho Chang have a tiger mom?
That's a big right
Great
there.
question.
Well, to that point, if you look at Rowling's larger oeuvre, she isn't very interested in exploring mother-daughter relationships. She keeps going back to father-son. if you look at casual vacancy, which we all do our best to forget, but okay, all of us except the poor of us do our best to forget.
Thank you.
Basically, like there's not a lot between mothers and daughters, but there is a lot with Andrew and his father, and then the other boy and his father, and whoever else was there. And same with Cuckoo's Calling. Sort of the central arc of the series is, Strike and his father, Johnny Rokeby, and sort of what happened with that. Whereas his mother is, dead, he misses her, like, we're done with that. So I feel like that's the sort of Rowling's thing, is exploring daddy issues. So, I mean, yeah, that is what it is.
Daddy issues or daddy-son issues specifically?
Mostly daddy-son issues, because I feel like Joe is a lot more comfortable writing from a male perspective, because all of her protagonists are guys, which, I mean, like, we're not here to psychoanalyze Joe too much.
Although, that's a good meetup for the future.
What was she thinking?
And it's also slightly awkward to, psychoanalyze people who aren't here.
No, I would psychoanalyze Joe. Would be like a discussion about Joe.
I mean, that's the role of literature. You take the text and examine who made it.
Well, but on the flip side, a lot of people say the author is dead. Like, the only reason we can, include Joe's, motivations and psychological profile in this is because she's such a public figure. There's no other author we could do this for. Like Rick Riordan, John, none of them.
Chuck Palahniuk.
Who?
You wrote Fight Club.
Yeah,
a friend of mine actually goes psychoanalyze him as a hobby. Yeah. He's a very prolific writer.
Okay, tell me what Fight Club is later.
That's the thing we don't talk about.
I know things. I don't know what it is, but I know we don't talk about it.
Alright, speak your tangents.
He knows something.
So I don't think it's a question of psychoanalysts. I think analysis. I think it's more a question of literary tradition. So why is J.K. Rowling focused so much on men? Because men have had a huge role in literary tradition because that's where the focus has always been, with male protagonists and the male viewpoint. So of course this whole thing is about fatherhood because that's where the focus is. And I do agree with you that Harry is more on a quest to fulfill the roles of fathers that have failed him in the past. He's moving from childhood to adulthood, which means fulfilling those roles and sort of searching for those things, because that's the traditional hero's quest. It's not the heroine's quest, it's the hero's quest. So I think that's why we see so much of the male focus, is because that's just the new tradition, and she knows that that's...
I mean, Rowling was a classics major, so
exactly.
I think that's her background.
So yeah, those backgrounds are perpetuated, I think, in Harry Potter.
It's the points to Hopper.
Okay. We good? Okay. Moving right along. Let's sort of begin with the best and then just sort of descend.
Why not?
Arthur Weasley. He's basically the best. And sort of tying it back to what we were talking about, where Goblet of Fire, Order of the Phoenix were the sea change because of Rowling's relationship with her father crumbling, I think we can also tie that into Arthur's unexpected survival. Because for those of you who don't know, Arthur Weasley was meant to die in Order of the Phoenix from the Nagini bite, and then she couldn't bring herself to do it because he was the only decent father figure. And with all her
ways, one of the only decent people.
Right. And with all her daddy issues, she's like, no, I gotta have one. And then she was gonna kill him again in Deathly Hallows and couldn't bring herself to do that either. She's like, Lupin and Tonks, that's fine. 2 for 1.
Yeah, take out the Nymphadora.
So I sort of wanted to ask, when do you guys see Arthur becoming a father figure for Harry? Because it sort of happens imperceptibly, where in Chamber of Secrets, he's like, oh, it's Mr. Weasley, it's Ron's dad. And in Goblet of Fire, it's still sort of like, oh, it's Mr. Weasley. And then sort of by Half-Blood Prince, he's like, oh, it's kind of my dad.
Okay, so yeah, one comment over there and over there.
I will say, is
to me, it was the Chamber of Secrets that I feel like that's where kind of the father figure started. Yes, he didn't have the much, page time in the book, but you kind of understood his character, and you kind of know that because, Harry was kind of Muggle, he worked in the Department of Muggle Industry and understanding it. I feel like they could immediately have a connection there that grew and grew when it got to the Half-Blood Prince and then Deathly Hallows, but that's basically all I had to say about Arthur Weasley. Just not much to say. He was really great, and Harry Potter and him were just really great together. Although many questions asked like, what's the use of rubber ducky then, stuff like that, but still, it was really great.
Great. Exactly.
I would say, come Prisoner of Azkaban really early on when he, if I remember, I'm doing my reread right now, but he's the one that tells Harry, he takes Harry aside and says, you gotta, don't be stupid. I'm pulling you aside, looking you dead in the eye, man to man.
I know exactly what you're talking
Don't
about.
be
Yeah.
foolish.
Yeah.
And I feel like that, I mean, you can't think of more loving thing involved in Azkaban there. You don't really need him for seeing a lot in Chamber of Secrets. You don't really just
Yeah.
very sweet, but yeah, by that point, that conversation.
Francisco, and then Ignacio, and then Apollo.
I think it wasn't until Order of the Phoenix when he saved his life. I think that's when they were like, okay, they pretty much Molly was like, you are family now. You are like you saved his life.
She pretty much says as much, when she's like, family only at first, and then like, good. She's like, family only, Harry, come on.
Yeah, I think that was like the big. I think that was kind of when it just like kind of snapped, and it was just like, yeah, you are family now.
I think it would have been. Sorry, did I get you sick? Like, I think it would have been in Prisoner of Azkaban, except that's what, right after that, he met Lupin, and then he got serious, so Arthur was sort of put on the back burner a bit, and then I think Order of the Phoenix was when the change happened. Yeah?
So yes, I agree. Arthur, the first time he showed up in the books, that's like when the kids like get hired in the house, they show up in the house, and Molly's trying to tell his dad what happened, like yesterday night, and they say, and they bring up Harry, and he's like, Harry, who? And you're like, you kidding me? Your daughter was killed last year because of Harry. You know who's Harry?
No. That's the beginning of Chamber of Secrets. His daughter is killed at the end of Chamber of Secrets. Well, almost killed.
No, I mean, what I'm talking about is like, Ron
almost
killed too.
He means Ron
So I mean,
well, yeah,
what I'm talking about is he knows who Harry is.
I mean, Ron's like the sixth boy. Arthur's not fussed. If it was Ginny, Ron's like, once he rescues Ginny, then Harry takes the
The Weasleys are a patrician family, alright?
I mean, Ron doesn't, though. Like, he really is the worst member of his family.
I get worse. Are you done with the salad?
Okay, someone over here? Yeah, and then I think Tim had his hand up, and then...
Well, all I was going to say is just, you guys are talking about Arthur as an actual father figure to Harry. In that case, I agree with what you were saying about Prisoner of Azkaban. But also, even before, I don't know exactly when Harry at least learned a little bit about what Arthur was like, but I think even before he was a father figure to him, Arthur was kind of like an example to him of, oh, that's what a good father would be like. Like, even if he's not yet being a father figure to me, that's sort of like, oh, that would, like just seeing how Ron was with his dad. Oh, that's how would it be like to have a good dad, as opposed to Vernon or whatever, early on. I think even before. That's fair.
Yeah, sort of the Weasleys are the like positive.
Yeah, like if you come from an abusive background or whatever, you might be like, well, I don't know what healthy families like. Oh, wow, they don't yell at all the time, or they're hitting all the time, or whatever it is. And you're, an abusive family,
Yeah. There's a strange line too of Secrets where the strangest thing Harry found about the world is that everyone seems to like him.
Right, yeah. It's like, that's what family is like, yeah.
Green shirt. Right here, the gentleman right here.
Did you have a point? Go.
I was just gonna say that like I thought it was interesting that in Chamber of Secrets, like if I'm remembering correctly, it's been a while. like when they say like, why did you take the Fort Anglia? Why did you do this like illegal thing? And they said, well, Dad said he was going to do it himself, and like, am I remembering that correctly? Can anyone refute?
That is true.
Not
Immediately-
really.
No.
After he took the Fort Anglia, like,
Basically, the Weasleys were saying that they would go get Harry if they didn't hear back in a while. I don't think Arthur intended a late night jailbreak in the Fort Anglia. Exactly.
Also, the Weasley boys tend to blame their father for a lot of things. Like, he's really encouraging, but he's not. He doesn't. They kind of use that against him.
Well, because Arthur's sort of philosophy of raising children is like, live and let live. Like, sort of teach them what you can and then, like, did my part. Yeah.
But there is like I feel like there is a strong moment with Harry and Arthur in Order of the Phoenix when he brings him to his trial. And,
Yes.
Yes, that's also true. Yeah.
Because like you know that is a very Harry moment. Harry moment for Harry. Where you're really not sure what's going to happen next, but like Arthur is there, he's a very comforting figure, and I feel like that's like the first time really that he is a comforting figure.
It's like take your kid to work day kind of.
Yeah.
Or take your kid to
All
the
American?
Quidditch game in the 4th book.
Oh yeah.
All American?
And I'm trying to remember, that may be the first time Harry's like one-on-one with one of the Weasley parents. Where like he isn't just sort of part of the big wide Weasley family, but like it's actually a relationship with Arthur. Good point. Anyone else? Arthur Weasley? Comments, questions, concerns? No? Okay. Moving right along to the next best father figure, Lucius Malfoy.
Already hesitant.
Take us away.
Okay, for me, I'm gonna be honest, when I first saw Lucius Malfoy, read him in the books, and movies, I'm sorry, kind of movies, but to me, I think it's very obvious, I despised him immediately when I saw him in Chamber of Secrets, and read him in Chamber of Secrets. The way we talk to the Weasley family, and we talk about how, you know, pure bloods are the best, you know, because we're full of wizard blood and such. To me, it just made me turn him off immediately. And that plot that happened at what was that bookstore again?
Flourish and Bloods.
Flourish and Bloods with Gildersleeve Lockhart. To me, was like, hey, he deserved it. He had it coming. And then further in the book, yeah, I can see how, like, you know, he wanted better life for his son. Like, I agree with what he said. Like, he wanted better life for his son. But to me, it's like, even though you want better life for your son, it still doesn't give you the right to act like a effing a-hole to everyone else. I'm sorry.
Again, difference is bad people, good fathers.
But this thing is bad people,
I don't think anyone
bad decisions.
You're the one arguing that Lucius is a good person.
Irving, do you want to start off before questions? Because you haven't even gotten started on this.
I mean, I was just gonna sort of let the shit storm.
All right, there's a lot of hands up. Let's try to do this clockwise. I'm so bad at names.
No, it's okay. Alice.
Alice, and then Francisco, then Mary, and then who's in the middle? Oh, okay. Eliza?
Close enough. It's a clock. It's a clock. That's the opposite.
Guys.
So I love Lucius as like a character, but I think that he's a really terrible. I do. I think he's really. And I love Draco as a character, but I think Lucius is a terrible father. And I think it comes down to like the expectations that he has for Draco, which I think are totally unreasonable. And it's never in encouragement or like supporting his personal growth. It's always just like, oh, why couldn't you do better? Like, why is Hermione better than you than school? Like, how is Harry more popular than you? That's like unacceptable, and I don't think that's like good parenting.
I mean, he expects a lot of his son. I feel like this is where a lot of our personal daddy issues might come into play, because like first generation Ukrainian, I'm just like, yeah, that's what you do with your kids.
First generation Koreans, that's why I go, that's not what
Touche.
That was me, right? Okay. See, I feel that Lucius loves Draco. Like like the love that he has for his son is there. I just think he's a bad father. It's the fact that he does compare him to other people. Like, why aren't you like that? I think is kind of incorrect. Like the fact that he couldn't protect him from what was going on because he was thinking about himself. The constant, like he was thinking about him and his role in Death Eaters, right? And that's what got his son tangled up, right? It's just like he loved him, but he just wasn't. I don't know how close he was to him, right? Like it's just like a weird kind of like, yeah, I love my son, but hey, I kind of screwed up along the way. Now he's screwed up too. Like
Lucius does a lot to protect Draco until Voldemort enters the picture. At which point, what can you do?
Yeah.
Because
What does he do to protect you?
he gets Dumbledore ousted as headmaster.
Yeah, but that's because he just doesn't like Dumbledore. Like,
And why doesn't he like Dumbledore?
Because he let the snake loose.
Dumbledore is addicted to Slytherin.
What? He is not.
Okay, here's the thing.
Whoa. Tangent. We're going on a tangent now.
There are like 6 people in the queue. I want to.
Yeah, all right.
Get through. Let me finish. Okay, we never hear of any Malfoy disliking Dumbledore until Chamber of Secrets. Why? Because at the end of Sorcerer's Stone, Dumbledore walks in and he's like, well done Slytherin, well done Slytherin. But we have a few last minute points. Can I do that?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
He is the headmaster. He can do that.
And then Draco comes home, spends all summer bitching about it, and Lucius begins a campaign to get Dumbledore removed as headmaster.
No.
Yeah.
Whoa. First of all, he can do that.
Seriously.
Super
tangent.
Yeah.
We're talking about Lucius Malfoy and his motivation.
We are. But I don't think you have. You don't have canonical proof for that. That's your assumption. Okay.
Yes, and that's what makes sense.
Who was after Fitz?
I was that way.
Okay. To be fair, I understand how hard it is. Lucius comes from a very, I always imagined the Malfoys being like the old-fashioned type family where the father wasn't the huggy-dory type lovey-dovey father that we have today in our world. If you go back in history, fathers really, they were there they made the money, they served the purpose of making sure the kids were in line and in tow and did what was expected. It was the mother who nurtured the child and the father who supports. And in essence, he did. He just wanted his son to do better. He wanted his son to do better than Hermione. He figured, hey, I've given you everything. You have all of the things. How does a muggle do better than you? She doesn't know any of our history, any of our magic, doesn't have all the books and the resources. But meanwhile, she's doing better than you.
Yeah.
And then, but I see him being a good father in one sense. When in Chamber, when he gets, I know this is to get him on the team, but again, he supports his son by trying to get his son on the team because his son did want to play Quidditch. And so he bought him a bunch of brooms. He bought the entire team brooms just to get his son on the team. If he didn't love his son, why would he give them new brooms? He wouldn't care.
No, that's just to show off, right? Just to show off he has money.
And the thing is, the Hermione thing, that rankles because basically Draco's failure to beat Hermione essentially disproves Lucius's worldview.
Yeah.
So
Big time.
Exactly.
Was there anyone?
I was.
Okay, it's relevant. And then Zach. Zach and Ro. You are you? Okay, Ro then Zach.
Okay. All right.
Gotta fight for your territory.
So I would argue that the Death Eaters are basically an age group in the Harry Potter world.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so
I don't think it's an argument. I think
stipulated.
So if someone is in this, I mean, people do exist. If someone is in our world who is a member of, like, say, the KKK or the Westboro Baptist Church or something like that, and they are actively indoctrinating their child to go into this and to commit these atrocious acts for this group, you would argue that this person is a bad parent, would you not? Like,
No, I'd argue he's a bad person.
no, I would argue that he's a bad parent. And I would like to add on to what you just said. I don't necessarily think that you kind of paving the way for your kid by, like, pulling strings and buying things for the school or whatever. I would argue that that's not a good parent. I think a good parent would say, like, no, you should get
I actually know a lot of good parents who do that. That's why.
Alright, everybody gonna disagree. But,
Okay, after these next two comments, we're going to take a break and pull the raffle.
okay,
So, Ro?
So I think what we're understanding here is that
Lucius Malfoy is kind of an obscure father, and you're right, it does depend on your view, because there's this way you can leapfrog through, and you can be like, well, he got mad at Dumbledore for just dissuading Harry, he went after Buckbeak because he hurt his son, whatever, but you can like hopscotch through that the other way, where he's thinking about himself first, not Malfoy first, and like the family name, and like buying his son grooms so that he can win, like, and then like, I don't know, it just seemed like Lucius Malfoy presents himself kind of pettily and often, and that reading him as doing these things because he can and he wants to be on a power trip isn't unreasonable. So there is a way you can read it like that he's doing them because he cares for Malfoy, and I think that we don't get enough substantiating evidence to say with determination that it's one.
Agreed.
We don't see a lot of the Malfoy home life. I mean, that's all I want to say.
That's true.
Yes. Very you and me. We don't know Lucius's baggage with his father. We can only assume, given how extreme cults and families go, his lineage was only far more extreme, and Lucius was a less than. I think, though, with his reasons for fathering Draco, I think he was very lucky in that he had a boy first to carry on his name. Because I don't care how many girls he would have put Narcissa through, he would have kept having children until he had a boy. And never on board with that. Never on board with that. That was my whole his motivation.
How is that different from what Arthur does?
Hold on. I'm pretty sure Arthur's just having fun.
They don't have money for anything else. Yes, they can't afford anything else.
To stop after the girl.
It gets cold in the winter.
That was Molly.
Controlius, okay? Birth controlius.
They're Irish. They only just made abortion legal.
We'll go on a tangent now.
Mine's not really a comment. Ironically, a question about the same thing, which is Lucius and his son, which is that what do you? I mean, people keep saying about whether he's a good father or a bad father, but what exactly do people think? And I don't know the answer. Lucius wanted for Draco. Was it just to succeed and represent the family name and do well in school and everything, or was it to become a Death Eater? I don't think it was to become a Death Eater. I think it's more Draco wanted to emulate his father, and his father certainly wanted to be a Death Eater. But whether I don't know what he wanted exactly for his son.
Okay, Lucius wanted influence and power for his son.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
The way to do that in Lucius's world in that time period would be to become a Death Eater. I don't think Lucius ever would have wanted Draco to do it at 16. I don't think he would have wanted Draco to be on the front lines of any battles. He'd be like, once you're, 25 or whatever, like, join up the Death Eaters, like, vegetables, more coffee once in a while. Like that.
Work your way up from the bottom.
Yeah, right. All right, stop
Give him a hug.
Give me a picture to draw the tickets from. Let's go. Anyone want to buy raffle tickets? Okay, so as soon as I get that picture, we'll draw. But in the meantime,
okay. Anyone else?
Well, all right, so maybe, this is speculation, maybe the only way Lucius knows how to express his love is through money. And, maybe that's just a lot for his life growing up as a young man. Maybe that's how his father showed him affection by buying things. And, the only, way we see him, doing anything is just, for Draco's betterment superficially, But again, we don't see a lot of Malfoy home life. We don't see any sort of private moment father would have with son. But I don't know. Maybe his idea of what affection is all financial and monetary.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I think that with Lucius everything is performative, right? Everything is for other people, right? It's all putting on a show. So what we see is all his way of expressing things externally to the rest of the world, but not at all really how he feels about his son. And it reminds me, this isn't really a tangent, but it reminds me of in the 80s movies when the football star would have a dad that beat him up in the back room. Yeah. It's that kind of a thing where you're okay, it could go, that was the thing. It could go beat him with a belt in the back. Yeah, it could go either way, right? He could be no, power is is succeeding in the world, right? So like I do this so you know how hard the world is, and therefore you will succeed because our family and therefore you as my heir will be powerful and then like happy, right, in some way. But it could also be like that it's not about Draco at all, right? It's all about the Malfoy family and the crest and the name, and that Draco isn't like his own person, he's just the next in the line of Malfoys, and his job isn't to be happy as an individual, it's just to continue performing the Malfoy role, right?
Children don't know what's best for them.
Right, they don't, but like, arguably, Lucius Malfoy also didn't know what was best for Draco.
Right? But he thinks, Draco doesn't know what he wants, what'll make him happy. Obviously, it's X, Y, and Z.
Right, but it's the question, I think it goes back to, to what you said, where it's like the question of like, what was happening internally is like really, I think, what tips the scale in either direction. Because if it is all performative and like Draco is literally just like a slave to the Malfoy name, then he's a shitty father, right? But if he's like thinking he's doing, if you think he's doing best, he's still arguably a shitty father, right? Because like he sent his kid into the Death Eaters.
Who I addressed as Lucius, right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, it is. I mean, it is. It's like it's very external, right? So.
Mary and then Rowan.
One of the things I think that does
Actually, can we pass that picture down this way? And then one this way.
I think there is a thing that tips it, at least for me, that tips it, is at the very end of Deathly Hallows. When he could have ran away, he could have done, like in the movie they had him run away and she could have written it that way, but she didn't. At the end of the book, he is with his wife and his child. And he actually turns towards, I should say, before that, when he's with Voldemort, he says about getting his son out. I want to get my son out. It's when he's starting to go, oh, I do not want my kid killed.
Yeah.
So he does show he loves his son. He even shows it to Voldemort, to the point of Voldemort knows that he loves his son. Because he's saying, look, let me get my son out. Let me get my son out. And Voldemort says, no. And then at the very end, he's with his son and his wife, huddled together.
I would also argue that using Draco the way Voldemort does would not be effective if the Malfoys didn't love him.
That doesn't make you a good father.
Unless he was still fixated on the heir thing. He only has one heir.
Right.
You can make more.
I don't think that's what he thinks.
We don't know that.
At his age, we don't know.
Let's not go with the draw raffle. Alright, we're gonna do the raffle draw. Okay, everyone have their tickets out?
Yes.
Okay. So remember, the first person gets to pick the bag they like, and the second winner gets the other bag. Both bags are awesome.
Yes.
Are you sure?
I guess. It's not subjective. Okay. Alright. 791. 4, 2, 9.
Fuck.
Lucius,
I got it.
Yeah. You got it?
Would you like? Okay, I'll bring it to you later. Okay. Okay, so this is for the Hogwarts bag.
How are you gonna read it?
I think Francisco's gonna be jacked for that scarf.
I want the scarf. That's what I got. I want the scarf.
All right, here we go. 791. 4, 1, 7.
Yay!
There you go. You bring something you gave me today.
Yay! Leave it for next time.
I didn't put that in the raffle, so.
What?
I didn't put that in the raffle.
I did.
No, okay.
Thank you, everyone, very, very much. I appreciate it. We definitely appreciate it. These raffles have been super successful, and it's one of the reasons why we're going to be able to provide snacks for that movie coming up.
Yay!
Okay, so just what you were saying, I think even still, it's still like subjective. It's still like, does he want to get Malfoy out because he's his son? Does he want to get him out because he's his line? Like, you can't tell. But I think what Lucius does do, which I think puts him, for me, in bad father category, even if he can't help it, even if he's had his own shit, whatever, like objectively bad, is that he, like, doesn't see his son at all. Because Malfoy is emulating his father, but Malfoy is 11. Like, but he pushes him in ways that are completely incorrect for Malfoy to go. We ultimately see, like, he isn't this person that Lucius thinks he is, and Lucius can't see that until he's 17. Like, that's, like, a long time to be, like, not, like, letting your son grow to be a human being that he needs to be. It's, like a weird impression, like, that Malfoy thinks this is the only way he can be, and, like, wants to be that, but, like, that comes from Lucius, like, and it's wrong for him, ultimately. So, I think that for me puts Lucius in the bad father category.
I think like the core of like the argument of is Lucius Malfoy a good father really goes down to like how we're defining father, because it seems to be like the core of like disagreement, because what is fatherhood, what is parenthood? Is a father someone who just supports their kid financially, who's able to put food on the table, who buys them rooms so that they can succeed, things like that. Or is fatherhood and parenthood something different? Is it something supplemental that we don't see happening with Lucius, at least on the pages as they're written? So I think that seems to be somewhat of the disagreement that's going on. How do we define fatherhood?
That is the most English major answer I've ever
Thank you!
And I love
Okay,
that.
we have Zach, Aporba, Zach, right?
Yeah, very good.
Okay.
I just had this epiphany.
No.
He does not tell Draco that he, with the diary, that he's involved with the Chamber of Secrets being open, period. Right? I think it didn't ever come to me before.
Because he's trying to protect us.
Yes, he is. Wow. I mean, there you
Possible
go.
deny them?
Missed it. There you go. Thank you.
Aporba, and then Ignacio, and then...
Oh, I was just going to say that, you know, Lucius doesn't just financially provide for Draco. He imbues him with important moral values, like hating Muggleborn and supporting the greatest wizard of all time, the Dark Lord. I mean, there are moral, I mean, they're not my moral values, but I'm just serious, that is what he does. So it's true, that's something beyond just providing for his son, right? He's trying to raise his son right.
He's trying to do his best.
Exactly, right, exactly.
How that best turns out is...
Exactly.
But he tries. All we can do is try. That's it.
I mean, for me, I mean, if I'm Lucius Malfoy, I don't know what's in the Chamber of Secrets. I'm not gonna look. You know, I know what is in the Chamber of Secrets, but I'm not gonna release a beast where my boy is. Well, I mean, I'm not even like 11 Nimbus 2001 so they can fly out whenever the beasts come out. That's all.
Here's the thing. He didn't know.
Yeah.
He didn't know what was in the Chamber of Secrets. All Lucius knew is that the diary would open the Chamber of Secrets, and the Chamber of Secrets is supposed to rid the school of mudbloods. So his son is just fine.
Yeah, and Lucius, there's one thing Lucius actually like fully
And the
believed in
myth,
blood
we know
purity.
there was a monster.
Well, Lucius Malfoy does not know about Fantastic Beasts or where they might
He's not going to read a book by a Hufflepuff. Wait, sorry, what, the gentleman in the green shirt, his name?
It's the
You guys need to say? Okay, comment?
Oh, right. To answer your question about parenthood and fatherhood, I feel like you kind of gotta look at both like the Weasley family and the Malfoy family. Because to me, it's kind of like polar opposites. Weasley family, they're not that rich. They don't have like everything, but they live in like a house of love. Like it's caring for people. Yes, be disciplined-ish like Molly is, but still, they're still together as a family. As for Malfoy, we can't really define it. But some people are saying it's power, some people are saying it's money, because he's in the mindset like, no, money and power are two things that if you have that, you have everything in the world. So that's kind of the way that's the way Lucius' mindset is. It wasn't together with his son, but can we define that as love and caring, or is just like, no, he wants to just keep the Malfoy name alive?
White Klaus, I'm so sorry.
I think that one of the things that I think about in terms of Lucius Malfoy being a father that is the consideration of cultural context. I think that, like we were saying before, that Lucius was raised in this culture of pure blood, and I think it impacts his father, and I think that he's doing his best to raise Malfoy in the way that he thinks is the most culturally appropriate. So it's not like excusing anything that he's doing, but I think it's offering context.
Well, it's a blue blood, really, when it comes down to it.
Yeah. And whose friends are also the same,
yeah,
right? His
all-
whole social circle is that.
What do they call it now? Bubble?
A bubble.
You know what? It's not.
Oh, you're good? Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, so zooming out of it, all this talk of heirs and so on, I find it fascinating that almost all the fathers we have in the series only have the one kid, usually a son.
That's the best part.
Except Arthur, Percival, and Marvolo.
And Hagrid.
That Hagrid is a mother, not a father.
Yeah, that's true.
No, he literally talks to Nora and he's like, "Where's mommy? Where's mommy?" Hagrid is a mother. Not for today.
There you go.
Yeah. So yeah, I think there is this like mentality of you gotta get the one heir and that's it. Whether you look at the Crouches, whether you look at the Malfoys, or even the Dursleys. And so I find it a fascinating contrast between Lucius and Vernon Dursley. Because Draco and Dudley are said to be very, very similar. Lucius and Vernon are very, very different in their fathering style. Where Vernon just spoils Dudley rotten and is like, whatever you have, you want, like I'll never say a bad word to you. Whereas Lucius is much sterner with Draco and expects a lot of him. So, thoughts?
Perhaps Vernon is more affectionate than Lucius is, like in the traditional sense of the word affection. I mean, he does do the typical standard everyman father things, like, "Oh, how'd you do in school today, son? Just give him the whole 1-2, and like, I just like, I see him as like more of like I could see Vernon Dursley in a lot of different corners of the world, like I feel like there are people like Vernon Dursley, as horrible as he is. Lucius Malfoy just has like a background of privilege, like backing him, whereas Dursley, does in a different way, of course, but like, I lost my train of thought.
Old money versus new money.
Yes.
Ignacio, and then
I think actually
Alice.
Yes!
Alice in Wonderland.
We got it.
I think the differences between them is what they want for the future. I guess that Vernon just want like a new house to go on vacation with his family, and that's all, because that's what he wants. And actually, Lucius wants to be part of the movement that is gonna kill everyone, but the people who just want pure blood, and he want a place of his son over there. So I think it's pretty different the way they want to see where the kids are going.
And I find it interesting you said that there are Vernons everywhere. Joe Rowling has said that Vernon Dursley is her least favorite character in the whole Harry Potter series.
Well, he has no redeeming qualities.
That's pretty much it.
The only person in the family who has a redeeming quality was Dudley at the end of the movie. And at the end of the book, toward in the book, at least he kind of
Lucius is redeeming qualities
apologized.
his looks.
Well, actually, Lucius has redeeming qualities.
Does
Vernon doesn't.
Vernon
It's
does
about, like-
as far as his love for his child, like,
Yeah.
and his family. I feel like he does love his
He
family.
does love his family. I will absolutely say that.
Yes, but just also, Vernon tries to do his best by Dudley, and it turns out terrible. That's sort of a
Lack of
thing we have
discipline.
here.
Lack of discipline, too much discipline.
Exactly, it's sort of the opposite end of the spectrum, but the end result is surprisingly similar.
You had a comment?
Yeah.
So I still think Vernon, with all the bad qualities that Lucius has, Vernon for me is the worst, because he's just not motivating his son to grow and become better at anything.
He's an
Whereas at
idiot.
least Lucius is plotting and pushing his son to it's not good. You should not compare a kid to another kid. You should just.
But you do.
Yeah, you do, but that's not healthy.
In the corner, she has a comment.
No, I was just going to say I agree. I think one of the differences that we've shown is the fact that even if misguided, Lucius seems to be future planned for his child. There is like a future that he wants him to achieve, where I feel like Vernon seems to just be here in the now. I don't really see him planning for Dursley to like be somewhere else at some point, like 25 years, like graduating from college or whatever, and doing something with his life beyond, hey, did you have a good day at school today? Hey, do you have what you want now? Whereas I feel like
I mean, I think both Lucius and Vernon plan for their sons to be exactly where they are in 25 years.
Selling drills.
Lucius expects, Lucius expects Draco to be influential and powerful and wealthy, and Vernon expects his son to be well off with a family and selling drills.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, I think Vernon and Lucius are actually quite similar in that they both very obviously care about their sons a lot. They want their sons to follow in their footsteps, and they want to set them up for the future in such a way that they're prepared for whatever society that their fathers imagine them entering. But I think the real difference for me is that Vernon has an overly optimistic view of Dudley, where he's just like, oh, he like beat the shit out of the kids at school, like he can smell things, like he's amazing.
Like delightful way I've ever heard that put.
Thank you. Whereas like Lucius is actually very critical of Draco, but I think it comes from the same place where they want their sons to be very prepared and to like look, like appear very correct for whatever society they're going to enter. It's just that Lucius is like, Draco's not there yet, whereas Vernon's like, oh, like Dudley's got it, like he's nailing it.
Well, because in fairness, Dudley is nailing what Vernon wants. Like, Dudley is the biggest bully and the leader of his gang.
So this gentleman with the blue shirt get cut?
Yeah, I think a core similarity between the two is that Lucius is very anti-mudblood, anti-muggle, but Vernon is almost the same thing, but in the muggle world. He's so anti-magic, and they both brainwash their kids in that way.
And both of their kids kind of overcome it.
Yeah.
So yay for the positive.
Yeah, like that's what I said. Like the end result is very similar. Like I really love the parallels between Dudley and Draco.
Actually, the more I think about it, especially with say, what is your name?
Andrew.
Okay. What you said. Now that I'm thinking about it, you could almost overlay the dialogue of Vernon and Lucius.
Yeah.
And it's almost they're almost like layers on top of each other, almost the same.
Yeah.
Just changing the adjectives.
Yeah.
Like nouns. Changing slurs. Slurs. No, the adjectives are the same. Yeah, the slurs are different. That's really interesting. I never thought of that.
So basically, Vernon and Lucius would be really good friends if they got to know each other.
No. Let's not take it that
I feel like there's like a good story where they like combine forces because they're like, okay, look, we both hate this Potter kid, so just.
That sounds like one of those like wacky adventure episodes that's just once in the season.
Yeah. And be like, you know, they get
I mean, I feel like they both want the two worlds to be separate. So if they can agree on that, they'll be like, okay, like.
They meet in a bar once a month, have drinks, talk about their lives.
Yeah. I
Drink vodka.
feel like there's a beautiful friendship happening there. All right, Vernon. Any more comments?
I think we prefer Vernon quite well.
I mean, he's the worst. He just is. All right. Going right down the list of who's the worst.
There's lower.
There's.
How far are we going?
Okay, actually no, not further down, laterally.
Okay.
Percival Dumbledore.
Who Dumbledore?
Percival.
Dumbledore.
Can you reiterate how much we know about Percival?
Okay, well, what we know about Percival is that he had 3 kids.
Yeah.
His daughter was horribly attacked, and he went after the bastards who did something awful to them, and was locked up in Azkaban for the rest of his life.
Okay.
That kind of sums that up, doesn't it?
Well, no. Does that make him a good father for getting revenge for his daughter, or a bad father for abandoning the rest of his family?
I think we have to put that. We know this from every
Guys.
so it can't be true.
No, we know that from April. Like, that is what happened.
What does her do like?
That's primary sources.
Well, I mean, but he loved the child, of course, because he wanted to do something bad. But like, he paid, you know.
I think it's a matter of really crappy circumstances. It's sort of like, no, Sirius Black is a whole other topic.
We did that last time.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, I can see this happening to most fathers. Like, especially if you're a wizard and they're muggles and you're essentially like have godlike powers over them. And especially I don't think he's entirely to blame for being away from his family. It just was a shitty circumstance that went very, very badly.
I mean, this is the plot line of Time Hill, where he goes and his daughter is brutally attacked by two men, and he kills the guys. In the end of the movie, you kind of agree that, no, you made the right call.
Fair.
I'm just thinking, this is so off topic, but in the world of Game of Thrones, an act like that would be lauded, and yes, he did right by his family. But
then they would all die.
Yeah. You have to remember the difference between Game of Thrones and Harry Potter is the difference between George R. R. Martin and Joe Rowling, where Joe Rowling says she cried whenever she killed a character, and George R. R. Martin says, oh, that's cute.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is, to what level are we ready to accept revenge, I guess, and I guess I'll really accept it.
Orba, and then I can't see who's hand. Abby, and then Francisco.
No, actually, I was gonna, in the past I might have said that, but that's not what I think now. But no, I mean, there's this whole thing about revenge. I'm not familiar with Game of Thrones at all, but I know it's it's set in this world, so world where revenge might make more sense because the idea is supposed to be you give up revenge when you move away from an honor society and society that has a rule of law. But the problem with where you're supposed to say, I'll call if something bad happens, the police will protect me. But the thing is that Wizard society doesn't have fair. I mean, it doesn't have rule of law. I mean, it has exactly. It doesn't have rule of law. It thinks it does. It has some kind of. It has a ministry of magic and a minister of magic who's like the prime minister and all these things. But the judge likes you, or if you're a really good Quidditch player, you get off. It's just so I think that has to factor into whatever we think about whether people are taking the law into their own hands or not.
Fair.
I think there's a difference between, when we're looking at him, a difference between he didn't go into it saying, I'm going to abandon my other kids. He went into it saying, I'm protecting my daughter. Right? I mean, he wasn't I don't think his intent was necessarily I'm going to go to jail, so this is how I'm going to do it, right? That wasn't his intent. I think that's something that you got to consider.
No, I was gonna say just if we just picture any other parent, what would they do? What would Lucius do if someone punched Draco in the face? He probably would have done it.
He would have filed a lawsuit to get the hippogriff killed.
Yeah,
and have remove Dumbledore from the
I'm saying
Lucius would definitely sue.
No, but in the instance that it happened, if Lucius was there when he saw Draco being hurt.
Lucius did try to protect Harry.
Yeah, so what would Arthur do if he saw someone punch Jenny? He
punched Lucius.
Yeah, there would be some retaliation right away. So.
Okay, and we're just going to tiptoe towards this tangent and come back, but do you think the fact that Percival was out of the picture when Albus was 11 impacted Dumbledore's style of he's 11, we can send him on a mission to fight off the terrorists?
I don't know, I just think Dumbledore just doesn't.
It could have, but I think that Dumbledore's whole philosophy was very recognizing love, but also very Machiavellian, right? It was very the ends justify the means. And Harry was the ultimate of that, where I think he did love Harry, but I think he still loved the wizarding world more than he loved Harry.
Was a really shitty person.
Yeah, he was a terrible father figure to Harry because the entire everything he did in Harry's life, as a father figure, was really just preparing him for a sacrifice, right? And he did from the beginning he knew that. So I would assume, assuming something about his internal mechanisms, that he held himself back from really loving Harry in the way that maybe he needed to, or that he should have, because he knew he was going to have to give him up. And it's very hard to extend yourself in that way, knowing that the loss is coming and is a sure thing if the world is to continue as you need it to.
And for more on that, read The Life and Lives of Albus Percival from Brian Dumbledore, coming out July 31st and written by yours truly.
The Life and Times of what?
The Life and Lives of Albus Percival from Brian Dumbledore.
Oh,
Because if you put the middle names in, it's not trademarked.
We got a lot of fathers to go through. Rowan and I.
I think this one those points about Dumbledore's relationship to Harry, and that I think it's important to remember how old Dumbledore is, and like I think at some point like age stops like making sense to him in a way. Like he's just lived so long with the elixir, right? That
He never took elixir.
didn't?
Nope. No, that's Nicholas.
How old is Dumbledore?
He's like 100 something.
Depending who you ask, he's either 116 or 150.
Okay, maybe it was.
He's like 150.
Yeah,
He's far from 11.
Yeah, like 11 is like what is it in like his like eyes, and then I think he must like he suffered so much loss. Like obviously he's not going to be a great mother figure to Harry because he's just so removed from being a human. Generally,
He's another one who's having fun too.
You need well-adjusted people to be father figures, and Harry keeps finding
He was
Also, the weird thing with Dumbledore is his way of protecting Harry is keeping information from him, which is like the opposite of like everything J.K. says, which knowledge is important and the thing. Dumbledore's like, no, I'm not going to tell you until it's the knowledge is you learn the knowledge the hard way because someone tries to.
Need to know these.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, Dumbledore. Aside, we did him like a year ago. It's been a while. All right. Now we move down the list of terrible fathers. Barty Crouch Sr.
Okay.
To play devil's advocate before I unleash the shitstorm. If you find out your child is a terrorist, what do you do?
If you're Lucius, you pay off the
Let's say your son was Osama bin Laden. What would you do?
Yeah. So John, take it away.
I think this was a guy who just he didn't know how messed up he was himself, and he needed to be a little more self-introspective because I know a lot of it had to do with his issues with his wife, which he then translated onto his son.
I don't know anything about him.
Wasn't she also
No.
She just finished.
No, she was a wispy little witch who sacrificed herself to save Barty. She had nothing to do with Death Eater.
Alright, never mind what I was saying then.
Okay. Strike from the record.
Reading some alternate.
Yeah, they wrote that.
Anyone else? Crouch Senior.
We're on the level.
Do we need a minute to sit with this?
I mean, like, so I can't, he was just so self-absorbed, I don't know how much of a father figure he was, right? Like, he just didn't care. Like, if you don't know your son is secretly with the Death Eaters, like, how, especially when you're in charge of capturing the Death Eaters, like, where the hell are you? Like, I don't, that's why I think he sent them to jail, because he said he only took them because his wife asked him to. It wasn't even that he would have broken them out of Azkaban, right?
But he kept it up after she died.
No, I know, but at that point, what are you gonna do? Like, all right, she died. Let me chuck you back into Azkaban. Like, at that point.
I'm saying, like, he did keep it up. He did try.
And he even took him to the Twitch World Cup.
Yeah, because when you told
Which is dumb. Like, what is he gonna know?
What I would say is, like, if we think of Lucius Malfoy as pretty hands-on as a father, Barty Crouch Sr. must have been very hands-off. He's a very like law and order sort of figure, and in order for like a man like that to produce like a lawless figure, essentially, like there must have been like some sort of big disconnect between father and son, like
Teenage rebellion.
There you go.
Yeah, to the nth degree.
Yeah, something that like Barty Sr. was not providing for Barty Jr. and. So I mean, like for like a sort of like absence like that, I mean, I think it would be like natural for Barty Jr. take it to the nth degree and like just be like, well, I'm just gonna go ham here and just be like the most awful person in the world. And I forgot where I was going with this. Sorry. Nope, it's not.
Well, because I feel like our impression of Barty Crouch Sr. is excoriating him for being a neglectful father. And locking his son up in Azkaban is an extension of that, where he's like, oh, he was never at home, he never cared about his son, and then he threw his son in Azkaban. Whereas I feel like you need to separate the two, where he was a neglectful father, and that's shitty, but then his son's a terrorist, and you do what you gotta do.
It's difficult to say, right? Because like I think that if I just like became a terrorist, my parents would like visit me in prison. You know, like they would totally visit me in prison. Like it wouldn't be like they would like not agree with what I did, but like that wouldn't cut off the parental relationship, right? Like and I think that's true of a lot of people where it's like people who are, especially people who are shocked that their children have done something terrible, right? Like, because that happens all the time. Like, we live in a world of school shootings, right? Where parents are like, what the fuck happened, right? And like, sometimes they have an inkling, but sometimes they really don't. And it's like, parents don't always understand their children. Like, I think that's like across the board a thing that's like very common. But I think that there's what we don't see with Barty Crouch Sr. is that we don't see like the point at which when the son does the terrible thing, like his reaction is to be like, that's not my son, right? Like it's to be like, no, like it's not a member of my family, he's not my son, he's dead to me, like that kind of a reaction, right? Which like makes sense to us on like a normal moral compass, right? Like if it was like a friend of yours, you'd be like, no, but like a parent-child relationship is so different from that, right? Like children do terrible things all the time. And like that doesn't necessitate the cutting off of the relationship. It doesn't mean the parent is necessarily to blame, right, for a child's breakthrough. Like we don't know why kids do this or why people do terrible things, but I don't think that his reaction to it sells me to him as a good parent, because what it tells me is A, he didn't know it was happening to begin with, but then B, once it happened, he made no effort afterwards to be like, what the fuck happened, right? Like there was no like, why did you do this? There was no like attempts to understand. It was straight up like, my public image is bad now because of something that you did, and so like I'm just cutting you off and that's the end.
Well, because as we've established in the wizarding world among purebloods, everything is about legacy. It's about the family name. Now, if Crouch is concerned with his legacy, he does not want Death Eater to be his legacy. So he cuts it off.
Right.
Like, it's very in keeping with the framework of those society we're presenting.
Right.
I'm just curious because I just reread Goblet of Fire and that scene, really, the courtroom scene, even though I know the ending, I'm still like heartbroken. Like, how the hell can you send your son to Azkaban, like, out of real trial? My question is, does he have the evidence? Like, do we think that Barty Crouch Sr. actually, like, yeah, he's all about his image and everything, but do we have any inkling that he knew what his son really was?
We don't.
Okay.
It's a good question though. Because like, was he under like? We don't ever see him being questioned. Like we never see the son being questioned, right? So like we just hear someone else saying it, and he's immediately like.
The book they drag all of them out.
They're just accusing them.
But Barty Crouch Jr. does not say anything until Crouch is like, take them away, and that's when he's like, no, father, it wasn't me, I didn't do it. Which I always read and sort of never even thought twice about it as him putting on a performance to sort of, dig it into his father once more.
But he didn't.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
I knew about that.
But that was what switched him.
Yeah. But yeah, no one knows if Crouch Jr. is actually Death Eater. Dumbledore doesn't know it until like the end of Goblet of Fire.
Yeah.
Sirius doesn't know.
But the question is his response, right? It's like, because he doesn't know, right? If Barty Crouch Sr. doesn't know, and he's saying he didn't do it, and he's so ready to believe that he's the Death Eater, that's a weird...
Wait, no, but Voldemort says he was my most faithful follower because he kept on in Azkaban, right? Doesn't Voldemort confirm that he was a Death Eater?
Yeah, no, we know that he's a Death Eater, but no one knows that.
Yeah, but Barty Crouch Sr. at the time of this event didn't know and was so ready to believe it. Was that
we don't know.
Yeah.
As the head of magical law enforcement, he very well could have been privy to information that we are not.
Also, this law system is pretty fucked up. That's why we can agree that it's just like, no, you go to Azkaban. No, you go to Azkaban.
Exactly.
Like we're like torturing this person. He gives us the name. All right, they go to Azkaban too.
I still fall by that somehow. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's also like, why are you torturing anyone when there's Bruna serum?
Yeah, but thank you.
If the
True
information
serum.
is that
Okay.
he's
You sure thing.
like, yeah, you throw him in Azkaban.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Azkaban has levels.
There's a misdemeanor level, just in case.
It has levels. Sirius is like, I think Sirius says that he was like the most heavily guarded.
Right, yeah.
Like the Dementors were there all the time.
Yeah.
maximum security.
So if it's a drug crime, it's only one Dementor hovering around.
Yeah. It's like one Dementor around.
One Dementor
Exercise large.
Yeah. But that is definitely a question for Rowling, is what evidence did Crouch Sr. have? I want to know more about the Crouches. I feel like they are fascinating. And just have to goblet of fire, we like wash our hands of them and focus on Bellatrix. I'm like, no. Like, let's talk about that.
It can be the sequel to Percival Dumbledore.
Yeah.
There you go.
Actually, I find Marty Jr. to be a really interesting character, just because like there is just because like there's a lot of like skill and talent to him that like you don't really see with other people. I mean, like he's able to impersonate Moody, he's able to take down Moody, and like
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. You know, like it's just like we don't really know too much about him or his like education or anything like that. But like just so many unanswered questions that we'll just never find the answer to because he's one and done.
He's able to mind read Moody. Otherwise, how could he do it?
Right, I had a thought. But, like, if he can fool Dumbledore, like, then obviously he could fool anyone. Which I think lends credence to the fact that he was putting on a performance in that trial. And, I mean, yeah.
How did he know? He did the little tongue thing. Like, come on, I was like, I just want to see your face. That's the reaction I wanted.
Wait, are we saying?
Yeah. Or maybe Dumbledore was playing a long game.
Dumbledore just wanted to know what happened.
You know what? I'm bored. I'm gonna let your class.
He comes up with the job. Well, let's just see.
Because I just read it, like, what's medium before changes.
Guys.
Yeah, Dumbledore has that moment where he's consulting with Minerva and Severus about whether or not Potter should even compete still in the competition. And still finds that it's best to let Potter play.
And I remember a really nice joke about that scene.
I don't remember this, and I have just been rereading.
That's movie.
Yeah.
No, after the name's called, basically Dumbledore and like everyone who's anyone gathers in a little room.
Alright, let's read the name of the girl on fire.
Yeah. And so
You said very
Dumbledore, Maxine, Karkaroff, Moody, Snape, McGonagall, and all the Triwizard are champions.
Yeah.
And they're all just sort of having a powwow about it. And Harry's like,
Wow.
what I get into this time? Right.
Like, what?
Lingering thoughts about Crouch Sr.? No? No? Yes?
Crouch is a grouch.
Yes.
What I was gonna say is that if I put myself in the shoes of Art Crouch Sr., I'd be like, if my son did what he did, took, the long bottoms with the Crucian first, and he sent the Azkaban, to me, I'll be like someone, like Kevin kept saying, I think people said that that's like him amputating him out of his life. I think some people said that. But I feel like, if we thought of it through like son stuff, like this is still my son. Do I really want to like cut him out of my life entirely because of the way he did it? Yes, he should be punished for what he did, but I feel like family is still family. You will find some way to fix it. I feel like there are other ways to handle it than just like throw him away with no trial at all.
Well, he never said you're not my son.
Trial.
There was, trial.
A
trial, yes, but immediately he's doing
back
it. Punishment time. Take him away. And that's it.
I wasn't in
Yeah, a Ministry of Magic trials.
I have a lot to say about due process.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's gonna be a separate meetup. Is the ministry and how Wizarding government works? And, John Taylor. The meetup about the ministry and how government works.
I work in government and
I feel like you were gonna run.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty much gonna run that. Yeah. That's why it hasn't happened yet, because I don't find time.
Morbid thought. So, Junior turned him into a bone and buried him. So when he died, did he go poof back to human in the ground, buried as a bone?
He was already dead.
No, but I'm saying, because Junior dies, because then that will kill the curse. But then he just poof back into
that.
Stick out.
When Barty Crouch. Well, no, because Barty Crouch Jr. didn't die. He had his soul sucked out, but he's alive.
There you go. So he can't die. So
Dementor's kiss.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that means he's just a bone
But
forever.
I like the way you think.
Just throw
and
that
I
out
also
there.
love the symmetry of he turned his father into a bone, and Voldemort used bone of the father.
Oh, good one.
So we're children.
We're so serious.
I was thinking the same thing.
All right.
Yes. I'm proud of that one. Okay, moving right along. Okay, let's just do the worst of the worst. Marvolo Gaunt.
Well, guys didn't kill your life. I don't know what else.
Abusive going in all levels. Just abuse.
Okay, does anyone want to play devil's advocate?
How do you play that? I have a question. How would you play devil's advocate?
John, oxygen. Maybe he was addicted to oxygen. He lives in a shack in the middle of nowhere, has poor impulse control.
In that time period, it would have been. That was during the Opium Wars.
You know, if you're high, if you're high on opium, you don't beat people. You sleep in the corner and drool. And heroin didn't exist yet. And also heroin, you also sleep in the corner and drool.
What about cocaine?
Hey! We're both dogs, but not hard cocaine.
Oh, hey.
I love our meetup. What about cocaine?
Too soon, look at me!
The Gonks are the Malfoys without money.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what they are.
Yeah.
So like they're the same father except one has money, one doesn't.
Education.
Yeah.
And
Well, they can't because they can't afford it.
One could make the argument that Marvolo kind of loved his son.
Sure.
Yeah, to a fault.
Yeah.
I mean, because Dumbledore says that Dumbledore loved his family heirlooms as much as his son, and rather more than his daughter, which implies he did love his son.
That sounds like a hell of a Venn diagram.
But he hated his daughter, so therefore he's his father.
Oh, he's the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's also the only father figure we know who's like actually physically abusive to his child.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, Vernon to Harry, but like to your own child.
I keep forgetting. Does Vernon actually strike Harry?
No.
He strikes him.
Petunia almost does. Fine hand.
What, like,
Yeah. He just like lifts him up. He's like,
He's not a good man. He's not a good man.
Oh, Harry's no.
We
We actually had an entire discussion about Harry's PTSD.
Oh, of course.
yeah, exactly.
By the way, to new members, eventually we're going to come back to topics we spoke about previously. There's just a lot of them.
Yes, we have a lot of topics we still got to get through.
Yeah, we're gonna reboot the book discussion.
You saw this, right?
Oh yeah, that was
Should be interesting.
So yeah,
no, Marvolo's the worst.
I love that. Every time it comes up,
Cause like I had a lot of fun like coming up with devil's advocate for all the fathers, and then I got to him, I'm just like, no.
He likes rings.
What wasn't he like supportive of his son? Wasn't he?
I mean,
Morphin a little
yes,
bit.
he supported his son.
Yeah, he wanted to be, racist and everything, and he's like, yeah, good for being a racist, you. Like kind of a
And he tried to protect his son from the ministry.
Yeah.
He was like,
you
you
got it.
committed a hate crime, that's fine, I got you.
We found something.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe like the Gaunts were more obsessed with legacy than the Malfoys ever were. I mean, if you want to draw that like comparison, like I feel like Marvolo hinges on like oh, this is where we came from, this is an heirloom, this is our legacy. I don't really see that with Lucius Malfoy, and like.
Well, because Lucius's legacy is his name, not an heirloom.
Yeah, right.
Lucius has money.
I think the difference between Malfoys and the Gaunts are proud of where they came from. Malfoys are proud of where they came from, but they also want to keep it going on, where the Gaunts are constantly bringing up like, know who I am, my ring. But like, they're not doing anything to like keep that going.
They're basically like the trailers.
It's a bit gothic, isn't it? That their their world is like decaying around them, but they're like still just like obsessed with the past.
And the thing is that scene that J.K. writes, where they first meet them and the ministry officials are coming.
Yeah.
She literally wrote that like they're in a trailer park.
I mean,
Like no matter how happy you were, you could end up in a trailer park.
If you you take Pottermore into account, which let's humor her, the Malfoys actually do not have that impressive a pedigree compared to other pureblood families. Apparently, the Malfoys were Muggle lovers when it was trendy. Like, one of them had an affair with Elizabeth I. Yes, that's why she's a virgin queen, because the Malfoy was spurned and jinxed her. Guys, Pottermore's fun sometimes.
That's a real go big or go home.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, and then once the Statute of Secrecy was enacted, then the Malfoys were like, oh yeah, Muggles are the worst, we would never. Oh, ew, gross. Before the Statute of Secrecy was enacted, in like the 1600s, the Malfoys were like, yeah, we're just gonna like control the courts of Europe, because what's up?
During the Renaissance.
That's how the law works. Like, if something happened, we embed a law for that.
Yeah.
We're gonna embed something against it.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So yeah, the Malfoys are proud of where they are. The Gaunts were probably in their heyday during the Renaissance.
Cool.
So, yeah. I enjoyed that bit. All right, so moving right next door, Tom Riddle Sr.
Oh, no,
Sam?
No. I'm sorry, he's not a terrible father. He was great. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he was great.
If we switched the roles, would you blame Moreau for leaving? No.
It's true. Amen.
Yeah, that sums it up.
Amen, sister.
That's right. Amen. Okay, let's go on.
Guys, drop the mic, moving on.
Yeah, like, who could argue with that? Yeah, that's
Sorry, I didn't have to.
No, but I agree with Sam. That whole situation is so royally messed up. It's like you wake up one morning, you're like, oh, how many years was he was under devotion?
Like 1 or 2.
Yeah, so you like wake up 2 years later.
Like she was like, you know, like 8 months pregnant.
2-year Ruthie
I
is
do
like.
want to say it's fascinating on Rowan's part how like Moreau gets treated so poorly, and we feel bad for her. She's porcelain with this one Muggle guy. He's kind of an asshole. So like when you first read, you're kind of like, you want to sympathize with her, but what she did was wrong. And I find that fascinating that Rowling did that. Like the victim is not the stereotypical victim, and the perpetrator isn't like this horrible evil guy in the bushes.
Well, it's like a cycle of abuse thing, right? Where you like want to feel bad for someone for having been abused, but that still doesn't like excuse them becoming an abuser themselves, right?
And I find
Like
that
you understand, but you don't excuse.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and to sort of bring it back to Crouch for a minute, you know, initially you think like, oh, Voldemort's terrible because he never had a daddy, like Voldemort has daddy issues, but like, we clearly see that people who do have fathers still turn out awful, with Barty Crouch Jr.
Or people with terrible fathers, hey.
Actually, the people with terrible fathers
actually turned out okay.
Yeah, the daddy issues in the series are fascinating.
Yeah.
Just like,
but
yeah.
It's all about the decision of the son too. I mean, sure, the father may have some control, but it's their own ones, their own decisions of if they want to be, you know, do something good or something bad, despite their intentions to start shoot.
I think it's a common thing you're gonna hear from someone. Like, if you got a parent, you'll say, if I am gonna become a father, I'm not gonna be like my dad, right?
I mean, but they,
I'm gonna be worse.
Well, they might say, yeah.
Well, do we have examples of like a father that was both a terrible person and just like didn't love their child, like very clearly didn't love their child? Because I feel like all of the examples we have are like bad people who still like arguably loved their kids, right? So like there's the question is really like, did they turn out okay because they did still understand what love was, and like that was enough to like turn it around later on, like they could apply that in other places? Or like, do we have an example of someone who just came from like 0% and like switched to the other side?
You could argue
right?
Crouch.
I mean, but like I don't feel like we know enough about Crouch, right? Like we don't know what kind of father he was. Like we understood he misunderstood his child, right? But that doesn't mean he didn't love the kid. It just means we like don't know like how that happened. But like, do we have any clear indication that there was like a character that like very clearly didn't care? He seems to have one.
Yeah. I'm gonna say, out of everyone in the fatherhood of Harry Potter, no, but there is one character who, in the time being in Prisoner of Azkaban, was in that category. That was Sirius Black. I would say Sirius Black because one, he wanted to kill Harry Potter before, and two, he really didn't have. Well, that shows why he's having love. But also, before before everything was shown about how Pierre Pettigrew and such, and how he was actually the innocent one, he didn't do all those murders. At that moment, and how we saw Sirius Black, he was like those two traits.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't think he ever wanted. No, that's not like. I don't think he like hated Harry, but it is a question, I guess. Did the Black family, like, right, were the Black family loving of their kin, or was that like a total like blank relationship? Because maybe Sirius came from. That.
He did.
Orion seemed to love Regulus, and we don't know the particulars, but Orion did die the same year as Regulus.
That's true. So we know he at least loved one kid.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, he would have loved the other if the other had been satisfactory.
Yeah, well, I guess it's just a question, right? It's like, because, like, is the question, like, I mean, the whole theme of the Harry Potter books, right, is that love is redeeming.
Yes.
So if we look at, like, even these sort of terrible parents as being, like, loving terrible parents, and, like,
I'm gonna find that Hallmark card.
you were awful, but you loved me, thanks.
Terrible parent.
Right, but like if we look at the like that connection as being like ultimately like as long as they loved you, you still had the chance to turn out okay. Like we do kind of see that bear out with Draco and with I mean we don't see anything with the Crouches, right? But like with Dudley, like with everyone else. I mean the Crouches are kind of like the question mark, right?
Yeah.
Where like if there was no love there, maybe that makes sense in the context of her story.
And there was no love with Voldemort, and that also makes
Exactly, right? It's like if we assume that relationship had no love and it was totally like external, then yeah, maybe what we get is like her sort of end moral, which is that like as long as your family or your parents love you, like you have the chance to be a better person, even if like everything else about them was flawed.
Which again, to bring it back to Joe's psychological profile, her like whole like cause to whatever is reunite kids with families. Orphanages are the worst. Kids should always be with a family, regardless of anything about the family. Like always family, and I feel like that definitely flowed into her work.
What about it, Mary?
Oh, I'm just, in a sense, I'm sort of reinforcing something you said toward the end. I'm just pointing out, this about love. I understand why we're talking about love, because Rowling is very into this love, and you know,
it's kind of
Harry's protected by his father's love, by his mother's love. But I mean, yeah, you can love your kid and be a terrible parent. I mean, I'm just reinforcing. We've already kind of said that, but I just want to, I mean, you can really love your child, but just be really bad at being a parent. And another thing is also some kids are much harder to parent than others. I mean, some people have kids that have problems. Yeah, exactly. That, maybe the parent is not like they thought I would have a kid like this, like a kid like I was, or a kid like, and then it turned out like this kid is like, I don't know what to, How you see that sometimes with parents who have kids who do really horrible things, like some of these kids who turn out to be, school shooters or things like that or whatever, that they weren't prepared for that. Even before, they weren't really prepared for kind of like their personality and how they turned out. They didn't know. But if it had been if they just happened to have some other kid, and then adoptive parents, then you never know.
What's your mistake?
So if you adopt, it's like, oh my God, And it really depends, right? It really depends on who, so you can just be bad at being a parent or being a parent of this particular kid, even if you love them very much. But maybe it's just me disagreeing with Joe. How love is the answer.
No, it's true though. We talk about good, like bad people being good. We don't talk about so much good people being bad parents, which.
Right. Oh yeah. And also the other thing, you can be a very good person and be a bad parent. You can just be bad at it, or whatever, or just think the way to parent is the wrong. Turns out to be the wrong way. It's kind of like Vernon in a weird sort of way. Not that I like Vernon. Vernon's not really a good person, but Vernon is, he's spoiling his son, but he's doing the right thing.
Mary had a comment.
I was going to say, somebody had mentioned, do we have any clear fathers who are totally evil to their children, that have been abusive? Because of all the fathers we've discussed, all of them are trying, even if they don't do it to the best of their abilities, they have tried to be fathers to their kids. And there's only one father, I think, in the entire series that hated their kid, completely hated them.
Marvola.
No.
Yes.
Marvola was one, and I was going to say Tobias Snape as well.
I was just going to bring up Tobias.
What's Tobias?
Here's the thing. We don't know.
One thing.
Tobias's relationship with Severus. We know he was abusive towards the wife.
Right. But we also know
and we know that Snape said things weren't great at his house. We don't know how Tobias and Severus related to each other.
So could you say that it's because of what Snape was going through, how he kind of like used that anger towards Harry, like in Sorcerer's Stone, or no?
I just think Snape's a dick.
Yeah. Because of the household.
Well, I mean, we don't know enough to.
I'm gonna go before the train stopped working.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I like, Tobias isn't even on my list because it's really a
yeah.
split-second flashback and we don't know enough.
It's like one sentence, practically.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Tobias was a monster, right? And,
Yes.
was it Eileen?
Yeah, Eileen was a witch.
Was a witch, so I mean, there may be some clue in the fact that he sort of turned away from. I don't know, like that. Like, it seems like maybe in some sense he took the side of his mother in a broad sense, but he's the half-blood prince. He's the one of the great wizards, and he was one of the great wizards, by the way. Yes, all those great spells he wrote and stuff like that. Don't forget that.
Terrible, terrible. Yes, but great.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
We're using that a lot.
Shut up.
Yeah. I mean, definitely Snape's choice to be the Half-Blood Prince could indicate hostility towards his father, but also that could just be him playing up his pureblood side.
Or the exact opposite, which is connection to his mother. You don't necessarily, you can have a connection to your mother without necessarily having a disconnect with your father.
Yeah.
So you can either way.
Yeah. So yeah. We don't know.
Who knows? Yeah.
Moving right along.
How generous to old Tobias today. I think if you're beating the mom, you probably have a bad relationship with the kid. I'm just gonna throw that out
I mean,
there.
probably yes, but again, we have nothing to substantiate that.
It's pretty rare, though. Yeah, it's pretty rare to be good to your kid.
Because he's crying.
Well, the other thing is that we don't know if Severus would have taken it.
We also don't know if he's a rampant misogynist or if he's he hates women or he hates his family, right?
Snape hates women?
No, his dad. We don't know because if his dad just hates women, then he could just hate his wife, right? But if he hates
well, and Severus
everyone,
is a wizard and Tobias is a muggle, so if Tobias tried hitting Snape, that could not have worked out for him.
Yeah.
Isn't his mom a wizard too?
Yes. But
And
they
also,
can
is it
respond
up to
differently.
the victim to defend themselves?
No, it's
Whoa,
not.
whoa, 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 whoa! Hold the topic.
All right, we are stepping back.
That makes me think that was
No, go on.
we don't know, but we have good evidence that he's a shitty human.
We're moving
and
on.
bad.
We're moving on. That's it. That's it. Check. No more. Okay. Who the fuck else is on my list?
You can't really
Amos Diggory. I hate his guts.
Are we including person child?
You messing with
Do you hate him pre or post
Sorry,
Cursed
it's
Child?
one of those circumstances where the guy gets a get out of jail free card.
What now?
Amos Diggory should essentially get a get out of jail free card for any kind of criticism. Because he had to hug his
It's
dead
a Harry
son.
Potter group.
No.
That's not good enough.
Yeah, but the thing is that
Gold Star dads don't necessarily have dead kids.
Let him speak, I'm kind of curious.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm dying to hear.
He's a total dick to Harry.
True.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Sorry, guys.
You see this orphaned kid who fell off his broom because of Dementors and is like, sucks for you, you're not as good as my son at Quidditch. Who does that?
Every sports dad does that.
Amos is a fucking imbecile because he works at the ministry and believes what Rita Skeeter writes.
Does that mean he's a bad That makes him a shitty person, not a shitty.
I know
Exactly.
I know I'm partially at fault with this, but I with this whole craziness right now. But I agree. Like it doesn't treating Harry like shit doesn't necessarily mean this is all about what we're talking about is his relationship with Cedric.
I mean, no, I'm just saying he's a terrible person.
That's quite possible. Yes.
Hey, listen, all of y'all were jumping down Lucius Malfoy's throat. But what? I can't hate on Amos Diggory.
I still think it's
double standard.
I still think it's pretty shitty to hate on Amos Diggory.
This is some anti-Slytherin bullshit.
This comes from
Yeah, technically classes.
Houses, not classes.
I hate that word.
They're for more kids to sit there. It's
Speaking of some of the Ravenclaw privilege, I'm just going
So, let's go part of this. He got a son, he was a Hufflepuff, right? And then he was the guy in school. When they hired him, his names came out, they got fired. And he was like, excuse me? I'm pretty sure he thought that he was trying to, steal that throne and glory his son. And then at the end, his son died, and he was like, the fuck, dude? Like,
I mean, that is the most middle-wise response.
And that was it's all Harry's fault that all this happened to Diggory's family.
It's all Joe Rowling's fault because it's poetic justice. Like, the minute Amos is a dick to Harry and talking of Cedric, you know it's gonna end badly for him. Just
for the boys. I'm sorry. Cedric will be alive now.
But I have to say though, personally, for some reason or another, out of all the tragedy in these books, one of the characters I feel the most sorry for is Amos Diggory.
Yeah.
So that's like.
Yeah.
What did he do to deserve this? Come on.
He was a dick to Harry.
Do you really?
Yes. So hold on. Wait, based on your rules, you support the witch in Beauty and the Beast.
I mean, she kind of had a point.
I mean, going into the staff was wrong, but she
Exactly. Going after the staff was a little low. But like, turn the prince to a beast? Yeah, that checks out.
He was 11!
He was 12.
By the way.
I'm pretty sure that was he's 11, it's okay, he can do it.
No, I feel very strongly about the Beauty and the Beast original storyline. 12-year-old kid. Oh, let this stranger into the house in the middle of the storm.
Thank you!
Where were his parents?
Exactly!
Yeah, really, the Beast's father is to blame here. Absentee.
His father's probably like a shoe polishing machine in the corner.
At least we got James
Wow.
Did I skip a time?
I'm sorry. So the guy who turned into a dresser is
the one who doesn't like tape.
Sorry, yeah. I'm also a hypocrite. Hey.
You're a hippogriff?
Yes.
Good. Deserves to die.
Moving right along.
So let me get this straight. This is your rule. You be a dick to Harry, your next of kin dies.
Yeah, no, that checks out.
It's like a Greek myth.
Again, she's a classics major.
Yeah, that's true.
Classic nature. So basically, thanks to Shakespeare, we have these books.
Well,
Yeah.
we go Homer.
Oh my god.
Anyone else have thoughts about Amos Diggory? We all seem to.
I mean, like, we've all read Cursed Child, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately.
The show is amazing.
Well, I think you guys all just know what I was going to say. I mean,
We don't believe it, right?
The book was
I don't understand why
the book. I hated the book.
like a villain, just like.
Well, we don't understand it.
It's because Jack Thorne has like seen the movies once.
The special effects are way better.
Yeah.
That's all I really had to say about that.
Also, just on behalf of the Potter fandom, we apologize to the Star Wars fandom because they get Jack Thorne next, and it's just
Oh no, really?
He's writing episode 9.
Oh, dear God.
What?
It's gonna have time travel.
Oh god.
Time travel.
Before the Death Star was blown up. And somehow
We humiliate.
There is gonna be one advantage to that though. If we get to see Darth Vader live and rule the Empire, oh my God, that'll be worth it. Because I want Emperor Day.
we're gonna get a bunch of X-wings, and we're gonna stop Luke Skywalker from blowing the Horde.
Wow, this is going to be totally off the rails.
Oh,
sorry, next. I just
Nailed it.
Oh, Oh, but we were having so much fun with Amos.
Classic good dad.
I always
Well,
thought.
it's very hard to talk about Amos, like, without talking about Cursed Child, right? Because, like, he's not a super fleshed out character before that. So it's like, once you know, like, what they make him, then it's very hard to, like, look back and be like, oh, was he really that person when she wrote it? Or, like...
I mean, I always thought that he would come back, especially when she was like, there's going to be a new minister in Half-a-Prince. Amos was the head of the second largest department in the ministry, the creatures department. So I thought that he would be the new minister in Half-a-Prince, and then it'd just be awkward as fuck. But no, like Crouch, he was a one-off. So.
Yeah, well.
Very depressing one-off.
Next time.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, like, I feel like I want to know more about Mrs. Diggory.
Yeah.
Just because she...
Yeah, where is she?
Like, her level of acceptance is, like, something we all need more of. And, like, Harry needed to learn from her. Where she was just like, oh, well, he was happy in the end, so... Like, I really thought that, like, after Harry had all the feelings after Sirius, we should have, like, gone to talk to Mrs. Diggory. Just, like, grief counseling.
She's like, life is suffering.
Yeah. You know, when he's all, no one understands me. Like Mrs. Diggory would.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Alright, next father.
Alright, next father. Moving on. Another one I hate. Xenophilius Lovegood. It's simple.
Because he was a dick to Harry.
At least you're consistent.
Punishment. Being a dick to Harry, your kid dies. Rule up with lives.
Simple. His daughter is kidnapped by Death Eaters. She said, oh, I take it all back. Yay, go Death Eaters. And tries to, like, sell out Harry to the Death Eaters.
Oh yeah, he's Orlando Flores.
Luna would have been ashamed of him.
Wait, that what he did and he's not?
Huh?
So, you support Lucius, but you hate Xenophilius?
Yes.
Oh my god.
But it's very hard to have that conversation, though, because...
Do you need him voted?
Zeno is a shitty father because he completely undermines everything his daughter works for and believes in.
Yeah, but like at the cost of her life, he's willing to sell it out, which like I can say that like with probably like total confidence that every good parent I know would probably do that too.
Yeah.
Like I just like that doesn't, to me, that is like what being a parent is like putting your kid before everything else, like completely everything else.
Yeah, if there was an actual guarantee, I could see that. But he's like, no, Deadbeat was like, don't you want Harry? Please, please, let's make a deal.
But isn't that like a thing that we see a lot in the books where it's like Harry gets to be like, my parents were great because his parents died, right? Like his parents like made a choice. They didn't like, there was no gray area there. Like they didn't have a like, oh, can you save my kid moment? Like they just died. And we see that with like the whole, in the 7th book too, I think, with all the Slytherin people. It's like, okay, like do you want them to switch over? They're thinking to themselves like, okay, but if I don't fight on this side, like my parents are on one side and I'll be on the other. And that's like a really hard decision to make. That's like a Civil War decision to make, right? Like
for the moment.
Right, and like, and it's like people get very tribal.
They don't know that they're in a book and that they are 200 pages from the end. Like they don't know if this is the final battle. Like for all we know, like Harry is gonna disapparate again. Voldemort's gonna have a tantrum, and the status quo will remain.
But it's one thing. It's
strange picture that doesn't exist will kill Voldemort or something like that.
But it's like one thing to know that like, oh, I'm like fighting on the side of good, but so is my whole family. I'm a Weasley, right? And it's another thing to be like, okay, like if I choose this, I could be killing a member of my family, which is like a totally different choice to make. And Xenophilius is in the situation where he's like, no, I know he has my daughter. This isn't like a theoretical, like his daughter is being held hostage. Like there's nothing he's not going to do. But there's nothing he's not going to do to like keep her from further danger.
He's supposed to be a Wrinkler. He's supposed to be smarter.
Well, he's a little loopy, isn't he?
He didn't have a plan. Harry just fell into his lap.
Yeah.
That afternoon.
Yeah, so maybe like talk to Harry, like, okay, here's the sitch, you know, my daughter Luna, like, hey, we got a whole thing. So you want to like rescue her on one of your adventures.
But he doesn't really know Harry.
Trust a 17-year-old you just met.
That 17-year-old has evaded Voldemort and the entire ministry for a year.
Yeah, but that's his baby.
Yeah.
And so you're gonna trust the Death Eaters'
and the other one
mercy for Luna, but not Harry's competence?
It's a very impossible situation Xenophilius is put into that we can't really understand, hopefully none of us have been in a similar situation, you know.
And it wasn't the leader's mind.
It's not something he can roll the dice on, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully, you know, there hasn't really come to that, to our doorstep yet, but like, you know, just.
I mean, who knows? Your kids could get kidnapped one day.
Well, it's also we know there's worse things than death, right? He doesn't have to kill her.
How about
Yeah, like she could be being tortured, right? Like, which is almost like worse than if she were just like killed off bat. Like he knows like they just have her. Like that's terrible. That's like the parents whose like kids are in like a country where they're like in a prison somewhere and they don't know what's happening and they can't do anything. Like there's nothing worse than that, I think, for a parent.
Right there, he's not gonna be out. What's that thing to her?
He should.
I don't think so.
Yeah, he is put in a really impossible position. For one, the ministry is incompetent and useless. So the law and
The
order.
ministry is just evil.
And he's
Well,
like,
the Tongs are taking over.
They give you that, just
Yeah.
give me something back then.
But yeah, so there is nothing he can do. He's not Arnold Schwarzenegger of the Wizarding World. He's not gonna like go out and save his daughter. There's also a lot. That's a thick. Wizarding version of
That's another thing. As a parent, like imagine just Harry show up your door. You maybe think like, oh, he's coming here with the idea to, you know, bring Luna back, and then he's like, I just want to know my story about a book you have. And it makes sense, you know. So that's no, yes, all right, stay here.
It really does. I mean,
the dark mark.
Harry really did make the decision easy for him.
Yeah. It helps a lot.
Yeah. And all he cared about was getting his daughter back, which is not unethical. It's really not. It's
World, slight chance of getting your daughter back. World.
Daughter.
No.
Have a good night.
Daughter, yeah. Let him go first, and then because he's had his hand up, and then I'll go.
So here's the thing. I agree. I can understand how some people would not like xenophobia, love good because of what he did to Harry to be Hollows, yes. But it's at least understandable. He's trying to take his daughter. I feel like any parent would do that. I feel like if there's any parent out there, you can ask, if your son or daughter was kidnapped, would you do anything in your power to save him or her? Their answer would be yes. They say no, slap him in the damn face. Because that's what a parent would do. That's what a parent would do. So I understand you're hit against you because of that. I understand. You would not do it because you want the world to be saved, the wizard world to be saved, but still, there's a good chance, a good probability your daughter, your own blood would die. I wouldn't take the chance. I would say yes. I'm sorry.
You're taking a chance on the Death Eater's mercy.
Who knows?
That is a shittier gamble.
Here's the thing. And when it comes to Voldemort being in the power, almost anything you do is a gamble. You could live, you could die.
Pretty much.
I would pretty much take the chance and roll the dice. Doubles!
So, just to get away from this for a moment, was he a good father? I think yes, because they were on such the same level. They obviously spoke to each other all the time because they had the same beliefs. Yeah, like they were all. Yes, exactly. They were completely on the same level. She obviously had a lot of respect for him. He obviously loved her very much. I think he's a good father. So, as fathers go, he's a good father. This whole thing that we're talking about, obviously debatable. I think most of us are probably against you, but I'm not going to say. Whatever. But yeah, good father. Good father.
Yeah, like, let's vote.
Oh no! At the end, we're gonna vote. We're gonna vote who's the best and who's the worst. We're gonna have a conclusive answer by the end of this night. Any other thoughts on Xenophilius?
Best father.
It is 9:45, by the way. I do.
So it's time to vote soon.
It's a work night. It's a work.
Do you have one more father? Or
Do I have more fathers?
Oh.
You should only have one father.
Yeah, regular black father.
There is one more.
Miss. All right.
10 tongues.
Oh, okay.
I love Gryffindor.
I mean, Chief Father was a father for like a hot minute.
Wait, who are we talking about?
10 tongues.
I think Hagrid's father is pretty good too, but
Hagrid, right?
that's kind of
Wait, you mean
Oh yeah.
Ted Tongs? Oh, the one we barely know about. Okay, yeah.
Yes,
yeah, yeah.
Nymphadora's dad?
Yeah.
What? Be well, St. Charles.
We don't know anything about him, do we?
No, Ted, we know like nothing.
We know his name.
I mean,
Do we know anything about his name?
the way he's presented is sort of like
I just mean from the
Arthur
books.
Weasley like. Like he welcomes Harry into his home. He takes care of him. He's like, don't yell at my wife because she looks like Bellatrix.
That's right, when Harry hangs
And then
in Deathly Hallows.
He
yeah.
goes on the run. He sort of takes Dean Thomas under his wing. He is competent enough to summon salmon to eat, which the trio never figures out. He's not addicted to Harry. He's not addicted to Harry. So,
Talk says TED Talks.
Yeah.
Are we saying TED Talks or TED Talks?
10 tongues.
Okay.
Like honestly, if it weren't for myself, I would say Ted is the best father aside from Arthur.
I had a good day.
But according to, and I don't know what she means by this, right? Nymphadora going, basically she makes kind of fun of her father now. I don't know if she's meaning it's a joke or if she really thinks he's just this clod because she's like, he's a fat, kind of slobbish, kind of.
She never says that.
There's something she says.
No, she says my father's a muggle born and he's a right old slob.
A slob, that's the word.
I mean, he's messy.
Oh,
like,
that's not. I don't consider that very derogatory. She's
Okay,
he's messy. Like I would say. I would say I'm a slob.
She
in that
says
sense,
worse
right? I don't
things
say
about
that's
other
offensive.
people.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm using the word slob.
She has a mean side to her.
You mean?
Really?
My son said I was a slob.
I'm trying to remember who. Someone said certain things about her other side of the family.
I would use a different word than slob. Maybe,
I put up a word that's
maybe messy, maybe pig. I don't know what.
Now, the fact that she equates her father with muggles, even though her father is a muggle born, that could be problematic.
It's muggle, not mudblood.
No, but she lumps them in together. Where she's like, very clean these muggles, aren't they? My dad's muggle born, he's a right old slob. So she's pretty much saying muggle born.
Well,
muggles
also
the
that
same
means he
thing.
was raised as a muggle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
I thought I remember. I could be wrong. I thought I remember Ted Tonks just not having magic. I thought he'd just like marry a witch. And...
No, he's a muggle born.
Ah, okay. All right, never mind.
And not a squib. Yeah.
I see.
No, again, there's this conflict because she lumps him into that sentence, so everyone thought he was a muggle for a while until we meet him, and nope, he's a wizard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I mean, like, balls, like, to be a Hufflepuff and to marry a member of the Black family. Like,
Fair enough.
Question is, who has the bigger balls on which side? The Black family member?
oh no, Andromeda's a fucking badass. Like, I spoke at length about that.
You did.
She's the best.
You came in costume as her with baby Teddy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought about doing Ted, but I'm just like, we know nothing about him except a potbelly, so I'm not quite there yet.
There's only one character who has like the biggest balls ever in the whole franchise. That's Molly.
No, Narcissa Malfoy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was all her.
Yes.
That's Mother's Day.
Good, glad settled.
Yeah.
So next year.
Yeah. But I mean, it looks like Ted did right by Tonks.
Yeah.
I mean, she spends Christmas alone when she's pining for Remus, which is odd. But he does it.
Possibly her own choice.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I feel like we learn so little about Ted, but like what we do know about Tonks' parents is that they love each other, and that sort of comes back to what we've been talking about. That so much of the foundation of the family in these series is like people caring about each other and genuinely wanting to know for one another.
Yep. Well, Ted loves his daughter enough to pretty much open up his home to the Order of the Phoenix.
Yeah.
Because, like, he and Andromeda weren't part of the Order or anything. It isn't until Deathly Hallows where They need safe houses, and they're like, okay, yeah, he can come stay at our place. And they do get tortured for that.
Like 3 minutes.
So, yeah. All right.
It's not almost like different.
Okay, I think that is all the fathers I have. Any lingering comments, questions, concerns about any fathers?
We didn't talk about Remus.
No, we didn't talk about it.
He's a father for like a week. Like, he's shitty.
That was still a good week.
Like,
No, it was a pretty bad week, actually.
Yeah.
Let's count it
It's not only
still.
that, but like, he believed that, I don't like the idea that he believed that he was a good father.
You think Remus believed he was a good
He
father?
said that, like, he will know that I died trying to make it better. You know, yes, I did it.
Oh, well, that's just Gryffindor nonsense. Like, I want everyone to know I died for a cause. It was noble. It was brave.
Yeah,
I want everyone to know.
I'm gonna write sketches for all these things.
Yeah.
It's like his last guest. Tell them this was awesome.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, Remus didn't want to be a father.
Right.
He, like, tried to get out of it as best he could. And then he was like, all right, I guess I have a kid. Oh, I'm gonna go fight in the war now.
And I didn't do it.
I thought he was proud of his son. He showed up at his Shalkata to the photos. He's like, you're gonna be good, father. Like, I think he was happy he stayed and had a kid and everything. He made a shitty choice. I don't think he should have gone to the war, or someone should stay behind for Teddy.
Yeah.
And then we have the fact that in some point of teenage years we would mix the movies with the books about Sirius and Remus, right?
Oh, yeah, seriously.
And then Alfonso Cuarón in the third movie told him like his character was gay, and he was playing a gay character for 3 movies, and then he realized he was not. He was, oh, I'm getting married. I can't stay there.
Yeah.
Wait, what? I didn't know anything about that.
Alfonso Cuarón told David Luis that his character was gay, so he played a character like going around it. If you in the fifth movie, in the fifth movie, you can Google it.
Yeah.
If you, in the fifth movie, when Harry just give a hug with Sirius, he's standing there like this.
Oh, well, yeah, like, in the 5th movie, they're just like Harry's 2 gay dads. Like,
Yeah.
it's adorable.
You gotta see that. I'm gonna look for it.
Okay. I mean, we covered Remus a lot last time with the Marauder discussion.
Yeah, we
so I
did.
kind of...
Yeah, we went into his psychology.
Just, I didn't want to rehash Harry's father figures because we've been there, we've done that, like, time and time again. So I'm like, let's talk about the Crouches and the Malfoys and the Dursleys. Alright, so, finally, now that we have had this conversation, nominees for worst father.
Marvolo.
Okay, it's unanimous. Marvolo's the worst.
Not unanimous, they raise their hand.
Close enough.
The Descent.
The majority.
Yes.
All right. Best father.
Arthur.
Wait, not counting Arthur.
Not counting Arthur. We know. We got it. We got the concept.
Sorry, just in case, I want you guys to see this.
Let me see.
This is a moment.
It's beautiful.
And he says it right here. He says-
In the book and the movie.
I'm sorry.
I don't know what he said.
It's actually, this is a number he says, like he said to Entertainment Weekly. Alfonso Cuarón told me that, like, without J.K. Rowling knowing that my character was gay. So then, 4 minutes after that, I realized he was not, and I was like, oops. Alright.
That's also why on screen, him and Natalie Tennant do not have any chemistry. Yeah.
Well, that's like, well, they don't in the books either. So.
Well,
I agree with that.
All right. Nominees for best father. Ted Tonks.
Ted Tonks, I like that
Ted
idea.
Tonks. I've always liked Ted Tonks.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. 6,
I think
7.
Hagrid's dad's pretty great
Okay.
too. We didn't talk
Okay.
about it.
I think we got 7 for Ted Tonks. Lucius Malfoy.
Wow.
Bunch of haters. Any other nominees?
Next time.
Xenophilius.
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 Wrong.
Yeah. My second.
You're all wrong.
And I'm also disagree with Urban, so that's, you know.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, happy Father's Day, everyone. And